Hello, I'm Nicole Conte. I'm the host of the Sweet Success Podcast. I am joined with Erica Wilson and Taylor Posey. Erica is a therapist at the Olive Branch Counseling Center, and Taylor is a life coach at 4031 Life Coaching and Consulting right here in Alabaster, Alabama. On this podcast, we are going to help you care for yourself and others in your life with a little practical help and hope. And girls, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, today we're going to talk about stress and anxiety.
Yes, girl.
I'm feeling a little bit stressed today. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Everybody feels some level of stress. I think mostly on a daily basis, I would say.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's more the norm now than not.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Especially as a mom,
Yeah.
wife, and
Yeah.
heck, as a kid, anybody,
Yeah.
right?
Everybody.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about stress and anxiety. Tell me, what do you feel like are the causes? What are you seeing as therapist, as a life coach? What do you see the causes of stress and anxiety?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there is environmental stress, and then there is situational stress. That also is the same for anxiety too. So it really depends on what's going on in your world or in your life that I think causes it. So, you know, everybody always uses the term, I'm so stressed out. But what does that mean?
Right.
You know, and I think it just comes down to, because being a mom, being a wife, being a full-time working mom or a full-time working woman, you know, all of that can bring stress. But it just, if we're looking at it from a therapeutic standpoint, is that stress causing you anxiety? Is what, because they're different. So that's some things I ask my clients or just people that I'm with, because I can feel stressed, but I won't necessarily feel anxious. So I do think they're being mindful of environmental situations or a situational type thing.
So give me an example then of environmental, like environmental cause versus situational. Give me real practical.
Yeah. So a child of divorce, that's an environmental type situation where their environment, are they at their dad's? Are they at their mom's?
Okay.
The environment is different. Or schools, you know, in a school setting for like Taylor to speak to. And then situational is, you know, I have to go on stage and make a presentation.
Right. So it's like in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling anxiety because of the stress.
Right.
But I do think it's interesting how you say, you know, it's two different things. I think we associate it together a lot.
Oh, always.
Right.
I'm
For
stressed
sure.
out
versus
I have anxiety. So
Yeah.
as far as from your perspective, Taylor, life coaching.
Yeah, so life coaching and even just like Erica said, in a school, you know, I think back to even when I was a kid, I used to twist my hair a lot. And to me, it was just like, oh, it's just normal. That's just what I do. I just twist my hair. Now, as a, 30-something-year-old, I realized that I was stressed. Like I was just, and maybe for me as a kid, it was more so an anxious feeling, like anxious of just, for me, anxiousness kind of makes like my heart beat a little bit faster. My stomach might, be in knots or butterflies or whatever you want to call it. And I just felt like there's something I need to be doing, like the anticipation of a test or, something like that. So we see a lot of that in school. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of parents calling us and just saying, my kid just doesn't even want to come to school today. So sometimes it's just the thought of, walking through those doors and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to go to class, but what if my teacher talks about something that I don't understand? Or what if this friend is mad at me? Or what if that kid that, annoys me, like starts bugging me again? So it's just kind of those thoughts of your mind playing the what if game and kind of wondering like what's going to happen. And sometimes, you can't predict the future. You don't know what's going to happen. So we see that a lot in school, kids not even wanting to be there because they don't know what each moment is going to bring.
The fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this looks different in different people? So if you have anxiety, Erica, Taylar has anxiety, and I have anxiety, is it going to present itself differently?
100%. I think that a lot of people know, your body and how it's going to react to certain things. The difference is how you manage it and how you cope with it, whether it is just stress or if it is true anxiety. We, like Taylar was talking about the twisting of the hair, it's a habitual behavior, but it does come with maybe she was in a stressful situation in her life, or maybe she was anxious for something. For me, when I was a kid going through some true anxiety rather than just stress, like I had mentioned in our first episode, my parents went through a divorce, and with my twin sister, I developed a lot of anxiety because of it, and it was because a lot of things were out of my control. And so I took it on physically, the knots in the stomach like you were talking about, or wanting to control the situations that I couldn't control, muscle tension, the school avoidance, all of those things were how I presented it. I have an identical twin who didn't present anything like that.
Yeah.
So I do think everybody presents anxiety in different ways. And I think it's just how they manage it, because some people can truly say they're not anxious or don't feel anxious or worried about anything, which is great. But then you have a lot of people who are so anxious and worried about everything, and they just don't know how to cope and deal with it, which is what I think Taylar and I try to do in our field, is help people cope and learn skills on how to manage in a healthy way their anxiety, because it's very treatable. It's very manageable, but sometimes people just don't know how to do that.
Right.
I think you're right. I think having open dialogue about this is so important nowadays, because even us growing up, us in our mid to late 30s here, it wasn't talked about, and you just kind of swept it under the rug, or you dealt with it yourself.
Yes.
In healthy ways or non-healthy ways, right?
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think that's really that's what I'm seeing now in my practice is 29 and up, where they will tell me I've dealt with anxiety my entire life, or for as long as they can remember.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing every time, is that nobody talked about it when we were growing up. You didn't go see a therapist when we were growing up. You didn't talk about it, or your parents were in a good way. We're like, you're okay. What do you have to be anxious about? There's nothing to worry about.
Right.
And as a kid, we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And our bodies do what we know to do as far as self-regulate. And then we get into our 20s, and then we're left with, wow, there's the real life of situations that are happening, and I've got to learn how to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I think growing up with my mom, being a former counselor, she would always kind of have those moments where she would just be like, well, let's sit down and, let's talk about it. And, with your mom, it's just kind of like, okay, Ma, whatever. But thinking back, I'm glad that she did check in with me. I would say for any parent, check in with your kid, like genuinely just check on them. A lot of kids may not even know that they're stressed, may not know what that feeling feels like. Like for me, I don't even think I knew what the word stress and anxiety meant as a child.
No.
Like I just knew I felt like maybe nervous about things, and I would just twist my hair. That was just what I did. And I think my mom was just like, oh, you'll be fine. I mean, which is and with good intention. But I think nowadays, and especially seeing it in school, social media plays a big role in stress. And I'll even admit as an adult, like I can look at, somebody's mansion and think, oh, wow, that's nice. Their house is cleaner than mine. Or look at this vacation they went on. We're only human, and not saying that, comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also human nature. You're going to naturally look at things that are nice and look at things that are beautiful and want those things. But for kids, they don't know how to filter that out. Like I can look at Instagram or Facebook and know, okay, this isn't necessarily reality and move on with my life. Kids and teenagers have a hard time doing that. And I think parents need to realize that, you know, I don't think Facebook came out until I was maybe like a sophomore or junior in college.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up having to look at all these examples of things and how your body should look and, you know, you need to be this way. So I think kids do have more stress. Now, how they manage it is the tricky part.
Yeah.
And I even tell my clients, like, you're still human. Your body is not going to shut off from all stress and anxiety for the rest of your life. Like you coming to me every week doesn't mean that stress is just going to totally go away. Like things are going to still happen. Life still goes on. But what can we do in those moments to help you deal with it better? So it's all about dealing with it and managing it. So whatever, you know, works for that kid or that adult, whether it's taking deep breaths or I've tried to tell people, like, you know, a lot of things in this life are totally out of our control. One exercise I do with people is we have 2 circles. The biggest circle is what is out of our control. There's only a very small percentage of really what is in your control. You can only control how you react to a situation. I cannot control how other people are going to treat me. I cannot control what's going to happen when I walk out this door. But what I can control is how I react to it. So those are things we talk about. And when you can kind of get in your mind that like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen when I get home. Is my brother going to cuss me out? Is my mama going to be mad at me? I don't know. But I do know that I can control how I react in those situations, if that makes sense.
Very, yes.
You like that girl.
Taylor. All right. Look, I'm like staring at you just listening. Okay. But seriously though, I love that nowadays, I feel like if you're not in therapy, it's like therapy's more the norm now than not the norm, right?
Yes.
And I honestly love that because I'm I'm an open person.
Now, let me say this too. Yes, it is more normal. However, we have so many kids that will come and say, I got anxiety. I can't take my test today. Oh, I got anxiety. I can't even go to this class. So, and there is a thing called test anxiety. Yes.
Yeah.
You might feel anxious, but some of those things you do have to learn to work through and not let it paralyze you. So I also try to tell parents and students, like, I understand you feel this way, but we have to move on and still try to work through it.
Yes.
Like everything that happens cannot be attributed to, I can't walk up the steps because I got anxiety today.
So do you see people, and this is really for both of you, are you seeing people that are trying to mask their anxiety, or are you, because it is more acceptable, I guess now, are you seeing more people kind of owning it? Like what do you think is going on?
I think a lot of the people who are reaching out for help, there is a true maybe chemical imbalance as far as anxiety, because everybody has anxiety.
Sure.
Not everyone has an anxiety disorder.
Right.
And so people who are truly reaching out for help, I do feel as though their parents and the kid, they recognize, or even if it's the parent themselves, something's wrong, like something's going on. And so they are reaching out for help to not mask it, or they're at a point where I'm tired of living this way. Like I've got to get it worked on. I've got to fix myself. I've got to work on this situation that I'm going through. And then like the kids at school who don't want to take the test because they feel a little anxious. Every time you avoid an anxious situation, it's still going to be there. So confronting your fear, confronting your anxiety, and every time you do that and you overcome it, your anxiety to that situation is going to go away. It doesn't mean that the symptoms are going to go away, but I'm no longer going to be afraid or anxious to go into this classroom or to go down the hall or to go into the gym where you do feel overwhelmed or overstimulated.
Yeah. That's a good word. Okay. Look, I'm storing all this away for later, guys.
That's
okay.
a good word.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Red flags. Talk to me about, from a parent perspective, from a friend perspective, what are some red flags I should be looking for?
The first one, especially in kids, my youngest clients are 4 or
Wow.
going up. And I have a 5-year-old who is starting to say a couple of things of, I feel shaky, or my stomach hurts. That's a big one, especially in kids. For adults that can voice what's really going on, a lot of red flags are intrusive thoughts, which are thoughts that are really unwelcome thoughts. They kind of come, and the what if thinking that you were talking about earlier, Taylor. And then, racing heart, the physical symptoms that come with anxiety, that is, you'll more so see voicing of those symptoms from like adults or young adults. In kids, it's going to come across as a tummy ache or a headache, or I'm afraid to go to school. And it's because they don't know the words yet.
That makes sense.
To say what it is.
Yeah. Biting your nails, twisting your hair.
So really kind of in the younger, we're talking like watching for those signs,
more
right?
physical.
Yeah, they're going to be the more physical symptoms that you start seeing and questioning. Like it's so important for parents to ask, why does your stomach hurt every morning when we wake up to go to school? Are you scared? Do you feel nervous? And if they say yes, it's okay to talk about it. Like, you're not giving them anxiety.
Right.
But you do want to be careful, like for parents who do struggle with anxiety, it really is hard to try not to push that onto your kid, because it's a part of you too. But to try to work really hard in managing your own anxiety in your own way, but not in front of your kids, so they don't pick up on certain behaviors. And not that it would be your fault or anything, because you're not giving it to them. It's not contagious. But it is very real for both kids and adults. And it's a very good thing to do, to talk about it and to just ask them what's going on.
Yeah. So I feel like questioning is kind of key, like asking those open-ended questions to your kids.
Right. Because, a lot of times with anything we do, like as adults, we like to vent. We like to, let me just get it off my chest and, I feel better. So even for kids, like, it's okay to ask them, what makes you nervous about school? And it might just be the thought of, walking in and, once they're there, they're fine. I'll be honest, it was my first couple of years of teaching. Every Monday, I just would always feel this nervous feeling. And I think it was just the pressure I put on myself to do well for my students. And, the weekend was so relaxing. So on Monday, okay, now I have to be on again. But once I would get to school, I would be fine. And the feeling would go away. I'd go on about my week. But I noticed every Monday morning before I would go into my classroom, before the kids would come in, I did feel a nervous feeling. But again, I couldn't stay home every Monday. Like, I mean, I had to just go. And once I got there, we were good. We were back in a routine. So a part of it is, just recognizing that, and, with your kids or with students, with anybody, just talking to them. And I would say, particularly as a parent, share your feelings with your kid. Like, I think it's okay for you to say, hey, when I was your age, I used to get nervous too. Or these things made me nervous. But guess what? Once you get to school, it'll be fine. Now, with that, I mean, when your kids open up, they might tell you that maybe there is a kid bothering them at school, or maybe they did get yelled at. And, and then those are times where you might need to go to an adult at the school and address those things. But a lot of times it's just kind of fear of the unknown. And like Erica said, just the intrusive thoughts. I can put a thought in my head and make everything happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
ridiculous stuff too that you know would probably never happen, but that's your worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But I love how you said, like, talking about it, saying it out loud, getting it off your chest. It makes it feel, putting words to it makes it feel less scary. If I have a ridiculous intrusive thought in my head, saying it to my husband, like, I'm scared I'm going to get in a car wreck when I drive my car.
Right.
It makes it feel less.
You're able to rationalize that thought a little more, because it in itself is an irrational thought. And I also want to kind of circle back to, I think it's important for adults to know when they figure out, like, all of a sudden, why am I so anxious? And if they talk to a therapist or a life coach about things in their life, or a friend, and there's been childhood trauma, whatever that may mean for them, I guarantee you they can pinpoint back to when it started, and it might have been in childhood. So a lot of adults carry those kinds of things with them for a long time, and that's a red flag. Is all of a sudden I start feeling anxious, or I start feeling really or depressed, or really overwhelmed, and it's just been building and building and building. Yeah. And if we pinpoint back to where it started, it was probably childhood or some kind of traumatic event, for whatever that may mean to them, that caused it. And they've just held it in and not talked about it for so long, and their mind and their body is trying to get out of it and regulate itself, and it doesn't know how.
But that's where you guys come in and can really help give practical ways to cope and deal with that stressor or anxiety, and where it's coming from, and how to work through that and make it feel less scary, right? So dealing with that, if I am a mom and I'm finally at the point where I'm like, okay, I think something is going on with my kid, more so than just I can help with, or myself, I'm at the point where I can no longer handle this myself. What are your tips for me to going forward from there?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, definitely talking with a school counselor. We love our school counselors, and your school counselor will a lot of times let you know, like, I will definitely still see your kid here at school, but it might help if they see somebody, outside of school, just to get some extra services. So don't be ashamed or nervous to talk to the adults that are in that child's life, because your kid's teacher sees them during the day in their element with their friends. They see how they react, when it's test taking time, or they see how they react when they get upset with somebody. So I would definitely say reach out to the people at school. Let your be open to your kid seeing a counselor. Even just little things, different things work for everybody. Fidget toys are great sometimes. Especially for little ones, they might like to just play with things, and that gets their mind off of stuff.
You guys have a playroom too.
Yes. We do have a playroom.
Yes. I love it.
And we have a bunny.
Yes, he's so super sweet.
And Erica does something with her younger ones where she tells them, think of your most favorite smelling thing. Ooh. So whether it's like hot chocolate or birthday cake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then get it and put it in your hand and breathe it in. Mm-hmm. And it gets your mind off of it.
It does. Calms you down
a little bit. Yeah. So again, I always tell people too, you can't just come to us one time. It's not a one and done, and you're going to be magically fixed. But, keep coming back. Make sure you're doing the work, especially for adults. Do the work at home. If there's things that you need to do to help yourself, we can't come home with you. So
it's true. It's true. But I think you guys have, I feel like you got so much in your back pocket that you're just slowly sharing little tidbits with us here, right? So got lots more information to dive into in these podcasts. I loved learning a little bit more about stress and anxiety and the differences between it, and how we all deal with it differently, and some ways to cope, right? All right. Well, we will talk more next week. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole.
You have been listening to the Sweet Success Podcast with licensed therapist Erica Wilson and certified life coach Taylor Posey. If you have questions or topics you'd like to have addressed on an upcoming podcast, please message Erica on Facebook at the Olive Branch Counseling Center, or Taylor on Facebook at 4031 Life Coaching and Consulting. Spell out 4031. For more information on Erica Wilson and all that she offers, visit theolivebranchcounselingcenter.com. And for more information about Taylor Posey and her services, visit 4031.org. Spell out 4031. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to our next time together. Please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform.
This podcast is produced by yourpodcastnow.com. Let us produce a podcast for you.